Burner accounts.
I don't know what those are.
They're all the rage right now. You know exactly what they are, and they're so in right now that, did you know you can actually bet? There are bets to decide who's going to be the first one to be caught with a burner account. Check this out. You are not, because you're not popular enough.
Oh,
but
damn,
this is from Bookmaker. Odds. Lonzo Ball has the best one to be caught with a burner account. That means you put 100 down. See, you get 2,000 back if he gets caught with a burner.
That's by association, because I think Lonzo is level-headed enough to not do it, but I would put his daddy at like minus $2 billion.
If there was somebody who you think is going to get caught with a burner account next, who you think it's going to be?
Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Fans, this is Bears 100 Proof, and you just heard NBC Sports Northwest's Serena Winters asking the question, who's going to get caught next with a burner account? My name is Aldo Gandia. I serve the drinks here, but don't you worry, the star of our show is here. He is, of course, Shayne, the smartest man in the barroom, Warsaw. We have got a lot to talk about tonight, and a lot of it is personal business. I've debated whether we should start the show with this topic or get to football, which is, of course, the main topic of discussion with all of our football-related shows here at the Barroom Radio Network. But this is a hot topic. One of our very own, Draft Dr. Phil, was caught with multiple burner accounts, and it's an issue we must discuss. So we're going to get it out of the way and, see where it goes. Unscripted, unplugged, that's what we're calling this show, Unplugged. And Shayne, before we get started on that particular topic, how are you doing personally?
Well, I just actually dusted off my Barroom Jeopardy trophy that's going to be on top forever.
You will go unchallenged
It's
now.
fucking right. I get to talk now. Hi, everybody. My name's Shayne.
I recall that you were on, I think it was the Cover One podcast, and it was like a 2-hour show, and man, you really showed your football brilliance, and people were saying, man, they should let Shayne talk more on the Barroom shows. So here's your chance, buddy. Take it away.
Yeah. I was on Cover One, and I'm blocked by one of those guys now. Aldo, so
really?
I gotta keep up my rep. Hi, Diddy.
Blocked by more people in the history of the world. His name is Shayne Marsaw. What is it about you, man?
I don't know if it's my girlish good looks. I mean, I had a girl from Mexico beating down my door trying to kill me at one point. But
jeez.
You know how that goes.
That is awesome, dude. We were talking before we went on the air about, you were saying this one particular person probably doesn't like you. And I told you, yeah, there's a lot. Seems like that's going on a lot.
Yeah, right. I don't know. I guess maybe I just sometimes come across a little bit brash, but, I'm a big old teddy bear. at the end of the day.
I can speak on Shayne's behalf. He's not a bad guy at all.
No.
Catch him sober, though.
That's right.
All right, I want to do a little bit of background work here because there's people who are listening to the show who may not be familiar with all of the characters and all of the drama and so forth. So it's necessary for me to, set some exposition, as they call it here in the script writing business. Draft Dr. Phil and Shane Marsall and Jose Cotto and Lauren Cox and myself, we all started Bears Barroom some 4 or 5 years ago. And Phil is an amazing talent. I don't think anybody would argue with that. It's not only his football knowledge, it's his passion for the team and so forth. And then as we went on, we learned that he was an excellent musician, songwriter, performer. And that really helped to set the identity of this show, 100 Proof, and for the most part, also, the entire network, Barroom. He had an influence on a lot because of his big personality. And Phil, I think, Shayne, it's safe to say that Phil had a very big personality.
Oh, yeah, he did, yeah. That fucking 5'7.5" was filled to the fucking brim. Yeah,
exactly. And Phil and I knew each other from exchanging tweets and mutual respect. Yeah, you know a lot about football. Yeah, Aldo, wow, you're an Emmy winner. Wow, that's cool, man. We need to work together. So I remember on our very first call with Jose, Shayne, and Phil that I was in trouble because Phil immediately said something about Aaron Lemming and wanted to go after him on the show. And this is our very first meeting. And I'm thinking to myself, what the fuck's going on with this guy? He's got something up his ass about Aaron. And I told him, listen, this isn't about going after people. This is about, us putting together a radio network that's going to hopefully make us some cash on the side. Hey, if at the end of the year we can say, hey, we made $5,000, talking about something that we love, that would be great. And Phil's response to that is, yeah, but you're my brother and I expect you to back me up. And I'm like, I just fucking met you, man.
Brother's got a hug, Aldo.
But that sort of set the tempo for our relationship with Phil. And Shayne, you'd known Phil for many more years prior to that, right?
Yeah, I mean, when this whole internet thing opened up way, way, way back in the day, there used to be a couple of different chat rooms. You'd go on there to try to get your Bears fix, and I actually met Phil there was like a cbfans.net, and then CB Fans, I don't know if it was dot something, whatever, and there was actually Matt Carsonson, that's what I met him the same way there, and we just, talking Bears got to the point where that was Twitter back in the day, that message board, and we would be there every day, everybody was talking ball. I mean, you got that sense of family even way back then with everybody because you were, away from your reality and diving into the Chicago Bears stuff that all of us are rabid about. And yeah, I mean, that you're talking, well, put it this way. I know when I met Phil, when I first met Phil, we were talking about when the Bears had drafted Rashaan Salam, and that was the 1995 draft.
Wow. A long time association with Phil. And safe to say that even back then, Phil was creating enemies, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Phil, yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of people that, the way that everything unfolded there the other night, there was a lot of people from that message group that used to follow me, and they're like, I can't do it, man. And they just unfollowed me. And as soon as the press releases went out, they instantly came back because, hey, like you said, Aldo, Phil is very, very talented at what he does. He's extremely driven, but with every, person that's very, very driven like that, you tend to overlook a lot of little things along the way, and that can end up fucking up the ride. As they say, you're climb to the top. If you're going up a ladder and if you miss one rung, you can fucking crash and burn right there. And
Yep.
unfortunately, here we are today.
Exactly. And so as moving the story along, we start to do our shows, and we really start to do something here that we're all proud of, particularly this show, which was at first called Bears Barroom Radio, and then transformed into 100 Proof as the network grew, and we decided to call the network Bears Barroom Radio, and this particular show became 100 Proof. And
Phil's idea,
right? He had a lot of fucking fabulous ideas. There's no doubt about it that this guy is, to call him a creative genius might be hyperbole, but I've worked with a lot of creative people. For those of you who don't know me, I'm 60 years old. I've worked with award-winning writers, producers, directors, actors, and so forth. And Phil, could easily fall into place there. And I'm going to talk to him again soon once he's ready to kind of reemerge and suggest some things for him that he could use the many talents that he has. But back to the story, Phil became very continued to display his talents with ideas and execution of music and blah blah blah. But along the way, we internally here, Shayne, myself, Bears Girl, a couple of other people, were becoming kind of aware of these accounts that looked suspicious. And we indirectly would mention it with Phil. And then it grew because I sensed that this was becoming a problem. And we all had some discussions with Phil and said, are these your accounts? And he denied them. And we made it really, really clear that if they were his accounts, that there would be hell to pay for it, because we've been marketing this show and, in a sense, the entire Barroom as a vehicle of delivering honest opinion, the truth, as Phil would say it in his songs and so forth.
It's 100 proof, not 12 proof, right? Right, Alpha?
That's right. You can't water down the show to 12 proof without letting people know. It's got to be on the label.
Just like you were saying, the way that it originally and I talked to Phil about this recently, to tell him kind of the backstory, and he knew back then. I still remember. I'm in a different house now, but I still remember being down in my bar room at my other house talking, and you and BG were on the line with me, and you're like, "Well, so what do we do?" And I said, "I'm going to approach him flat out and talk to him about it. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be over Skype. It'll be, I'm going to call him on the phone when I know he's got time. He can't make an excuse for, kids, work, whatever." And we talked about it, and he flat out lied to me. And I knew then, I said this to Phil, you just knew. You go back and look at any of those accounts. You go back and look at them now, obviously it's, that part of it's over and everybody knows what's happening, but I just never felt like I was getting Phil's 100 proof,
right
from that.
Well,
yeah.
Excuse me for interrupting. I recall at one point that you told me that he said to you, "Well, what if they are my burner accounts?"
Yeah.
Something like that, right?
Yeah. Phil's big thing with that was using it as a source of promotion. That's, he talked himself into believing that, and it was never about promotion. Mm-hmm. It was all about self-promotion and talking to himself, unfortunately, in a lot of the threads. And, he got in deep and got in deeper and deeper and deeper. And he got to a point where I think he was embarrassed by it, and he just didn't know how to get out of it until he finally stepped forward and told us about one of them.
Right. Which one was that? I forgot.
That was Chi-Town, Philly. And the way that he explained that to us, he's like, I created the account. My cousin runs it. And again, it was all about promotion. And unfortunately, I after all of this broke, and Brez or whoever kept all the receipts, story for another show, I guess. A couple of times I had conversations with Chi-Town Philly and a couple of the other accounts, and I made a comment on there. I feel like I'm talking to Phil via proxy.
Yeah.
I tweeted that out. And then the conversation fucking stopped right there. And I mean, what does that tell you?
Tells you we're dealing with.
No. I thought you were coming in there. I'm sorry. No, it just tells you that he's like, oh shit, I gotta stop. And I mean, Aldo, you can get on to the next portion of it after that came forward about kind of what your thought process was with it.
Yeah, I knew that he had dug a hole for himself. I wasn't absolutely sure. I didn't have any evidence. And every time, I approached him with him on that, he would deny. And, just like I have, and I've been open about this, I have a brother who has addiction issues, and he denies too. I don't love my brother any less because he's a fuck up. And the same thing was happening with Phil. I didn't go and read these tweets from these people because they seemed suspicious, number one, and number two, I don't read a lot of other people's tweets. I do my tweeting. I engage with people who want to reach out and engage. I try to do that as often as possible, but I have so many things to do. It's hard for me to play the Twitter game as exhaustively as some other people do. And frankly, I don't think it's healthy to stay that much time on social media.
It is not. I can attest because it's like I said, and I don't want to think. One thing that I do want to get out there, and I know this was something that was questioned by Mike Brez when all of this information was handed to Mike. He made a comment on there that Shayne and Aldo obviously knew because there was zero interaction with any of those burners, which I just explained to you guys was a lie. I assumed that there was the burners. I mean, to me, it just felt like it. To me, it looked fairly obvious, but it got to the point where I think we got our point across to Phil. Aldo did when he spoke to him, and the things stopped. Mm-hmm. But Phil's biggest mistake from that point forward was what? Not deleting those accounts. Not to leave those read receipts out there for people to go back and if they needed to, if this ever arose again. And it just was something that honestly, Aldo, up to this point when everything started to blow up, we didn't ever bring it up again.
Right.
With each other. It's not something that we said, we got to be on the lookout for these burner accounts. They never reared their ugly head again. And, it's very, very unfortunate. And like I said, I just don't want people to think that it was something that we knew about here as a whole and wanted to keep it from everybody when we had our assumptions. Phil definitely lied to all of us multiple times. And me on this show is somebody that, I've talked to Phil. There's more days that I talk to Phil than there's days that I don't talk to Phil, just even on a personal level. So when you have a guy away from 100 Proof, away from Bears Barroom, that is swearing up and down, no, bro, I'm telling you, this is not me. I owned up to Chi-Town Philly. Bro, I'm telling you, I don't know how many times I heard that. Mm-hmm. Like I said, this is difficult here for me to even talk about. Yep. But this is what we are. I mean, I'm going to tell you, we didn't have to do this show like this. We could have just went and talked Bears football, but that is fraudulent in my book. And I mentioned that to Aldo. I think it was important for us to go live. I think it was important to have everybody in the chat room. And, any questions that you guys may have, we can get to. But end of the day, I think Phil got to the point where he was in quicksand and was just grabbing whatever the heck he could grab onto to save himself. And there was just nothing. He just kept on getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And so he threw himself. Because Aldo, you can admit too, when we initially talked to him about this, is when everything with Bears Barroom started to blow up. He got away from those. He started to throw himself into the music.
Right.
He was involved with that a lot more.
Right.
And I had even mentioned to you guys about 100 Proof. It got to the point where a lot of 100 Proof wasn't. We were always football based, but we were actually.
Yeah, I lost your audio a little bit. Just. Not completely, but it seems like it's got like there was a little click, and all of a sudden your volume went down about 50%.
Can you hear me okay now?
It's about the same for some reason. Check your connections. Give me a test. We're on live radio, people, and this stuff happens even to broadcast studios. Talk to me, brother.
Hear me okay? No?
There you go.
Still low?
Just clicked in right now. Go for it.
Okay. All right, so yeah, like I said, it's just the quicksand reference is about the best that I can give. You get to a certain point and there's no coming back. And then you saw Phil dive into the music portion of it, and we were, doing almost comedy routines on 100 Proof, and I think he dove headfirst into all of that so much, because he felt in his own way that it was pushing that portion of it away further. And unfortunately, I even talked to Phil recently about, I'm like, why didn't you just delete those? You had the chance, because it went for quite a while. I mean, a couple of them didn't have anything going on from 2017. I think there was one that was early February 2018, maybe. What it was, and he just said, I didn't know how to delete an account like that. And it just goes to show you somebody can be so brilliant, so focused and have a talent in almost everything that they do, but when it comes to some common sense things, it can really make a huge dent in your regular life and your Twitter world, unfortunately. And it's hard all the way around. Like I said, this is not easy for me, but it needs to be said because I respect everybody out there. I mean, you, Aldo, and everybody that I work with behind the scenes, everybody that's listening right now, everybody that's going to download this tomorrow. This is not easy, but it needs to be said.
Right. And another thing that needs to be said, which is very difficult to talk about, is actually I got a couple of things that are difficult to talk about, but one of them is that again, I didn't read these accounts, but from what I understand from some of the people who were letting Phil have it, is that he was very abusive, verbally abusive to some of the people he was interacting with. And that shit just ain't cool. Early on when we started this and Phil was doing his anti-Aaron Lemming bit, I knew that people were going after Aaron in a way that wasn't cool. And I, on one of our shows, asked our barflies to just step on the brakes. And I contacted Aaron via DM, had a private conversation with him, talked to him about it, and said, I don't know what's going on. I'll look into it. I'll do the best that I can. And he said, yeah, there's definitely people on your end who are doing burner accounts and attacking me and so forth. And so, that's just not cool. There has to be, we're going to disagree with people in the Bears family. I, for one, and I told you this, Shayne, on a couple of occasions, I think that some of Aaron's tweets are really like Captain Obvious. And I think that someone of his stature in social media with tens of thousands of followers needs to do a little better, not tweeting things out just for filler's sake. He has an obligation, I think, to send out tweets that have some substance and have some thought behind them, as opposed to them being so fucking obvious that they're laughable. Yeah. And on this particular show, the design of that show is there's always gonna be a portion of that where we're going to poke some good-natured fun at some of those aspects of Bears Twitter. That's how I look at it. But taking, mean, abusive shots at people where, the person is going to stay up late at night thinking about this motherfucker said this about my mother or blah, 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 whatever it is, that's not cool. And so Phil participated in some of that behavior with these burner accounts, and that really fucking breaks my heart that somebody on our team would do that. So that's one thing. The other thing that has to be said is, I'm no fucking psychologist, but I'm 60 years old and I've been around. I've worked in corporations where I had to deal with people who clearly showed signs of narcissistic personality disorder. That's how they got to the top, because they thought that they were right about everything, because they pushed their thoughts through and people got out of the way and let the guy go all the way to the top. Phil exhibited some of that behavior. And again, I'm not a fucking psychologist, so I'm going here with some trepidation, because I know that people can say, well, fuck you, Aldo, you're not a fucking psychologist. But I'm just based on my experience, Phil, as talented as he was, felt that he should have gotten more recognition for his talent. And that the day that we parted ways with him, a very, very tearful day for me. And Shayne, got emotional too. Not maybe as much as me. Shayne won't fucking cry in front of me. That's Shayne won't do it.
I had to keep it humorous, Aldo.
Oh yes,
You have proof.
We're gonna get to that too. But I told Phil, your uncle was an NFL head coach.
Yeah.
Your father has a football stadium named after him. Perhaps what you were engaged in was trying to fulfill that gap that you feel is in your life, that you have not achieved that level of fame and achievement that those two very important people in your life have. And so through these burner accounts, he was filling that void. And I apologize to Phil, for sharing this to our listeners, but I really do think that it's necessary so that people can get a better understanding and appreciation for what Phil was going for. And anyone that questions my continued friendship with Phil, all I'll say is that I have empathy for anybody that makes mistakes, and if even if they do them repeatedly, at a certain point I have to start distancing myself from people who behave badly over and over and over again, because it starts to become toxic. But I don't think I'm at that point with Phil. Phil right now is at a point in his life where he's reflecting and repairing, and I totally anticipate that he is going to come through this fine.
Right.
But it is important to deal with everything as honestly as possible.
Right. When all of this started to unfold, I was downstairs and I was on the treadmill and my phone rang and it was Phil, and we just started talking. And, I said to him, Phil, if you're going to do this, you got to do it the right way. You can't say it was Chi-Town Philly, and there's fucking 7 other ones out there. It's embarrassing, it sucks, and you have to just own the whole fucking thing. Own it. In the grand scheme of things, Twitter doesn't fucking matter. Bears Barroom doesn't matter. It's not going to be on my fucking tombstone. Well, maybe it will be, because I'm Jeopardy champion, but
and the smartest
bad joke. But the toughest conversation that I ever had with Phil was last Friday, and unfortunately, I put somebody that's connected to us, and I'm sure he won't be mad that I'm going to bring his name up. Chris Sandlin was on the phone with us, and I know Chris is in the chat room, so he can talk about this in there if he wants to, because he was a part of it. After everything that unfolded with what came out on Twitter, everything with us talking to him, Aldo, he still was lying right until the fucking bitter end. Right to me on the phone. When he was painted in a fucking corner, there was nowhere else for him to go. His first reaction was to just fucking lie more. And I fucking, Aldo, you've known me for a long time now. I think that there's been times when people have wanted me to go batshit crazy and go bonkers at certain individuals, and I'm not that way. I fucking lost it on the phone. We were doing a 3-way phone call with me, Chris, and Phil, and I fucking lost it. I actually forgot Chris was even on the phone because I felt like I was, screaming at my kid for doing something really, really stupid, and I'm not even a screamer. I went for like 5 fucking minutes, and then finally I'm like, I just wanted to say, fuck you, Phil. Why should I give a shit about any of this when you don't give a shit about what you're saying to me? And it was just lie after lie after lie, and that was where, and up to that point, Aldo, you and I had talked, where do we go? Is this going to be an indefinite suspension, or are we going to just move away completely? And I told you, I think indefinite suspension was the way to go originally. But after that phone call with me and Chris and Phil, I'm like, you're done, bro. It's fucking over. It's over. I mean, at some point, your fucking friends are there for a reason. Not for you to fucking scratch and claw your way with more fucking lies to try to get out of what you fucking did. And that's where I was. And don't get me wrong, I've had many conversations with Phil since that day. He's apologized to me repeatedly, and he has owned it. And I've seen a different side of Phil recently that I've never seen. But he's got to earn that trust back. Doesn't mean that if he earned, start to trust him more again, it doesn't mean that he's going to be back here. That's not what any of this is about. It's not about fucking Bears Barroom. It's just about being a decent human and doing what you need to do. You don't need to, people that are always there for you, you don't need to spit in their face for your own gain, to try to get out of the fucking quicksand, to bring that reference up again. And that's where, Friday was, although we talked that night and you talk about emotional, no, I didn't physically cry and show my emotion, but it was fucking tearing me up. It was hard.
Well, I always reveal my vulnerability. I cried when the fucking Parky double doinked it, and I cried on that phone call with Shayne and Phil because I like Phil so much. I hated to see the pain that he was going through. And it was also a mixture of simply feeling lied to over and over and over again. When somebody that you care for, like a family member, does that to the point of, man, do you really love me, Phil, as much as you always say you do? And if so, why are you doing this? Why are you continuing to deceive us all the way to the end? And so it was hard, and it was hard to part ways with my friend. Then all of and all of a sudden, I tell Phil, you kind of shared some thoughts, and the thoughts that you've shared, I've written them down for you. So if you want, tweet this out to let everybody know. And so Phil tweets out his resignation, his goodbye tweet, and then Shayne, I recorded this part of it. Shayne says the following.
You want me to screenshot that for tweet of the week, or I don't know. I'm sorry, Phil. I gotta break it up with you, Bert.
You're the worst. You are the worst. That probably saved me from committing suicide over the weekend because Shayne's brilliant sense of humor just came in and saved the day. Have you gotten a lot of shit from your wife about that?
No, I actually, when you sent me that clip, I hate to admit, but I've listened to it quite a bit because it, as tough as it was at the time, I think that humor is the key to unlocking a lot of, relieving a lot of stress and everything. And that, it doesn't matter how deep down in your sorrows you are, if somebody can make you laugh, I think I think you should, Jimmy V said, I think you should laugh every day. I think that's healthy. And it did. That's therapeutic. Aldo, my favorite part in that, not that there was a good part, was just, your reaction, you fucker. It reminded me of us doing 100 proof, how right. It didn't fucking, Mark Grody here, Shayne's going to tell you how to do your fucking job. Like, that's all not planned. And you just hear, I'm going to kick you, Shayne, I'm going to kick you in the balls. I'm going to play this for Grody. And then here we go. This is where we are. And that's, it instantly popped into my head when you said the tweets. And like I said, that's who we are. It doesn't matter if it's a fresh cut or if it's an old wound. And it doesn't matter if it's Phil, if it's Aldo, if it's me, Bobby, Chris, whoever. Everybody's gonna take their fair share of shit, and it doesn't matter the situation. And some people won't agree with that, and some people probably think that audio is terrible, but I don't agree with that, and I think it's something that is healthy. Because at the end of the day, like I said, it's not Twitter, burner accounts. Yes, it's wrong, and you're going to have fake tough guys out there that are going to keep on bringing this up in 3 years. If Phil ever came back to Twitter, there's going to be people out there that are still going to be talking about it. Mm-hmm. And, they probably have just as many skeletons in the closet. But like I said, I'm not going to worry about anybody else. This is about us getting our truth out there about the situation. It took a lot of us by surprise. We didn't know that it was going to unfold this way, but it did. And that's why we're here tonight, is to answer questions and to do whatever we can to, make light of this. I don't want to say make light of the situation, but right. Just make this transition easier for everybody.
Right. So we've got about, 4 dozen people in the chat room. I've asked if they've got any questions, and the first one comes from Ben. What can Phil do to come back? Can we just roast him a bit and bring him back? Well, I think the roast has started tonight.
Yeah.
Shayne, you want to start with this one?
It's not a here, do A, B, and C, and then everything previous to that is forgotten. It's not that. I mean, there's other things at play. There's personal things that, is really not anybody's business in any of this. But there's no set blueprint for this. And I think you would agree with that, Aldo. It's not like we have
absolutely a list
of goals for Phil that he's got to achieve and say, all right, if you get here by, training camp or, the 2021 season, just, to throw any dates out there, it's I don't know what Phil can do. It's a process, it's like developing a quarterback. It's not an overnight thing. It's a process. And if people, develop at different paces, it's just like Aldo, you talked about your brother. I have a cousin that's pretty much a cousin, like I said, that's exactly the same way. And you want nothing but the best for them, but there's always a bump in the road, and they're going to trip, and then they're going to fall back down into that hole, and then they got to get back up again. And as a family member or a brother, you're there to help them get up. But at some point, they have to want to fix themselves, or it doesn't matter who's there to help, put their hand out and help them up. Phil's got to work on Phil. We'll just put it that way. Mm-hmm. And it's none of this stuff here, 100 proof, Bears Barroom, really shouldn't even be.
Did you accidentally summon me?
No, I didn't, Siri. Bears Barroom and 100 proof and all of that really shouldn't even be. It shouldn't even be in Phil's list of things to concentrate on.
Yeah, I used the term reflect and repair, and I think that's the most important thing for Phil right now, Ben. I think, I would love to have Phil back in the Phil that I imagine. We're all flawed, but my highest hope for Phil is that he is spiritually right, and that deception and concealing things and letting his ego overtake good decision making, that's a thing of the past. That's the most important thing to me. I have no problem at all with Phil coming back as a guest on one of the shows and sharing his opinion on things. Now, whether he could come back and be a barroom regular, again, that's more about what Phil can do for himself, because as a friend and as somebody that cares about him deeply, that's my biggest concern right now. But it's a very fair question, Ben, and I'm sure it's one that's been on the minds of many people. Let's see what else we got here. Frankie says, you guys have pretty much answered any questions I had. Thanks for doing this. You got it, Frankie. I know Frankie went online with an impassioned defense of Phil, and I reached out to Frankie via DM and saying, hey, it's not all what it seems to be. And I will say this to a lot of people. I think that the one learning, the one lesson we can all learn from all of this is that there's a lot of stuff that happens that we're not privy to. So, Twitter gives us the forum to opine on things, but a lot of times we just don't know the depth. And so we got here at the Barroom, we got a lot of shit from some people saying, I'll never listen to Barroom again. I can't believe they turned their backs on Phil. Well, if you know what we know, I think that you wouldn't say that. When the guy is continuing the deception to the point where all the evidence is laid out, it's all there, and we've suspected it for a long time, and the deception continues. Then like Shayne said, it's time. It's time to go reflect and repair.
And like I said, I've talked to Phil recently, and Phil has said that it's actually the best, not the best thing, but it's important that this happened, because deep down inside he knew that he needed to get away, and he agreed with there was no begging and pleading, Aldo, on our phone call with him or on our Skype session with him. He knew it. He owned it. He was embarrassed, and I know there's going to be people on their soapbox. I'm sure there's some of them that are still upset in the chat room and want to go on, but like I said, we've opened this up, and if you got questions, don't just bring them, ask them. And if they're hard questions, give them to me here. I'm going to answer them, because there's Phil's not the only one that's guilty in doing things wrong in Bears Barroom or with people that were involved in Bears Barroom along the way. There's lots of people that are gone from Bears Barroom that have fucked up. And I think that's important, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody? So get off your fucking soapbox if you want to keep it real, because you're just as fucking guilty with things too. So that's the part where I have a fucking issue. This isn't just a Phil. This is about Phil tonight, but not everybody's fucking innocent.
Do you want me to read the comment from the person?
Well, go ahead. Yeah, I got no fucking problem with it.
Double A Ron from Shy says, the level of dishonesty while flying a flag of honesty and truth was just brutal. 100 proof, co-signed all of it, and barflies, myself included, at times gassed Phil up. Truly hateful things were said on air and behind the scenes. And that is true, Aaron. And so I think ultimately the buck stops with me as the chief operator of Bears Barroom. I have to do a better job of policing those things. And the way that I'm going to do that moving forward is to ensure that I'm going to work with people who are more trusting. And Aaron, you let me down on one occasion, and you apologized profusely, and then you went away. So, while you and I, Aaron, are still friends, I will not work with you in the future because you did some things deceptively with your tailgate show that you told me you weren't. So, if we're going to keep it 100, let's keep it 100. Bobby Phelan says, yeah, that was obvious. Okay, he's referring to Aaron. Joe is saying we acknowledge those things. We move on. Sadman, you flew that flag proudly too, AA. Okay, so this is going to get ugly here, so maybe I should just skip on down, see what Michael says. I would hope that after tonight we can move forward. No one needs to bash Phil going forward. I agree with Michael Halatak, who is a very important part of this. This is a cleansing, but if you're going to cleanse, you need to do your own cleansing too.
Exactly right. Like I said, you can't look at this as a venue for you to walk into and just eviscerate one person who obviously deserves it in Phil. And maybe you should just turn around and look in the mirror a little bit, because there was a lot of things that you did wrong too, AA. And this isn't just about you, and I'm not going to just point you out, but step down off the fucking soapbox.
All right. Let's see. I don't think there's any other questions. I think Shayne and I, we can put a bowl on this. I just want to say again about Phil. A lot of the good things about Bears Barroom were the result of Phil's hard, obsessive work, his creative talents, his knowledge of football. So there's a lot here to celebrate about Phil Atoshin. He made some mistakes with these burner accounts. He made some mistakes with deception, and those are things that, as he wrote, that's the he's going to have to pay through being humiliated. And I think at this point, those of us have to now kind of let that go, wish him well, and we move forward. And one of the portions that we're going to talk about on this show is how we're going to move forward. We'll do that a little later, but right now, Shayne, do you want to put a bow on this?
Yeah, I think it's one thing that's probably important to talk about too, and I know there's been some questions out there, Aldo, is the BHL question. Mm-hmm. I know everybody kind of got caught up. I talked to Barrelissimo about it. He everybody got caught up when they first read the release, and I think they focused on the first paragraph of it and maybe didn't really focus on the second portion of it about where BHL is going and stuff like that. Because Barrelissimo asked me specifically about it, and I said, well, it was in the release, but with you being the lead dog, maybe just kind of re-put that out there with everybody in the chat room, so if there's any questions, to just keep it 100 there.
Sure. Bears Hour Live was the creation of Lauren Cox and Draft Dr. Phil, and when Lauren left the Barroom, he allowed us to use the title and the concept without any remuneration. Very nice of Lauren to do that. And Phil brought the title to Bears Barroom, and it was Phil's baby from the start. He took over that. He grew it. He molded the show to what it was. One of the highest rated shows on the network. Second only to this one, 100 Proof, and did remarkable work with it. Now what Shayne and I have decided to do with that that show is now gone. That you will not hear Bears Hour Live on the network again, and if Phil wants to bring it back in somewhere else, it's his baby. I don't own that title, he does. But what Shayne and I have decided to do is Joe Mandel, who we have been blessed with his talent and his work ethic, his diligence. We've entrusted him as the producer to develop a show either for that time slot or later. And we'll talk more about the future of what we're going to do here in Bears Barroom to finish things up, and also a direction that we're taking editorially with most of the shows. I think that's something that you guys will all be interested in. Now, we're already 50 minutes into what we have planned to be a 2-hour show. So, Shayne, if you're ready, why don't we move on?
Had to wake up my son who was snoring on the couch.
Mr. Riley. I think some of our listeners have started to snore too. All right, let's move to the next segment. We were going to talk about haha, but why don't we do this first?
Hello, Bears Barroom. My name is Dan Aguirre. On Twitter, I'm at BearsFanDan. You may have heard me on various Bears Barroom platforms. Since I've gotten this gig, barflies, specifically the female ones, have begun to refer to me as Sexy Dan.
Such a turn-on.
Now, I may have the deepest, most masculine pipes in the Bears Barroom. And even though I graduated college with honors and worked 2 jobs while achieving that, I still may not have arguably the intellect of one gentleman, the brain power of one guy. And I'm turning the mic over to him right now, the smartest man in the barroom. It's Shayne Marsaw for Tweets of the Week.
Oh.
Is that your mother again?
My mom is such a great sport. She'll lend her voice to anything.
I'm not even going to tell you what we were doing when we recorded that.
Trust me, I've seen it all. All right, Shayne, for those of you who are turning in for the first time, we're done talking about Phil, and we're moving over to one of our signature segments on 100 Proof, and that's where Shayne highlights a bad tweet of the week and a good tweet of the week. And sometimes he has several tweets. What do you got for us now, Shayne?
We do have a few here, and we're going to get this shit fest started off with a Packers fan, Aldo. And I gotta give a little shout out to Ryan Badgley, who brought this one to my attention. This is Tyler Griffin, at Griffin Tyler. He sent out a tweet. He said, "The Chicago Bears need a superstar on their team. They don't have a single one. Up in Green Bay, we have Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams, Jimmy Graham, Clay Matthews, Los Angeles Raider, Randall Cobb, Dallas Cowboy, Nick Perry, street free agent."
I think that guy was just trolling. Don't you think, Shayne? Because I read a couple of those tweets. I don't know.
I think so. They still qualify for bad.
Absolutely, because if you're going to troll, at least do it with some facts, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of trolls, Aldo, I don't know if you were on Twitter much today, but Mr. Evan Silva reared his ugly head again today. You actually sent out a tweet giving Ryan Pace some praise about the Cam Meredith situation. Mm-hmm. And I know Mike North is probably taking his shadow box Cam Meredith jersey off of his wall right now. I won that contest.
Yes, you did.
But he's still out there pushing the narrative. He sent out Sigmund Bloom was talking pretty much along the lines of what you did, saying that Ryan Pace really is looking very good after the way that things unfolded with Cam Meredith. He went down there, couldn't get through the season. That knee is just a horrible issue. And Evan Silva said, well, he still botched the tender with Cam Meredith. The Bears botched the tender. If they knew Cam was done, they wouldn't have tendered him at all, except they did tender him. They just didn't tender him, they just tendered him incorrectly. That invited the offer sheet. He got hurt again with the Saints, giving it the false look that the Bears won. So what I would say to Mr. Silva is that I think he's the one that's looking at it the wrong way. I think Ryan Pace low tendered him because he had no intent of giving him any more money than what was on the low tender, and he wanted to invite those offers to come forward. And he essentially did Cam Meredith a solace. If there was a team dumb enough out there to put forth an offer for him, I don't think Ryan Pace ever had any intention of ever matching it, because they knew that his medicals just weren't up to the Bears' liking whatsoever. And I think he kind of knew that that was the only chance that Cam Meredith was going to have of getting paid. And let's be honest, I should have went back and looked at when that offer came forward from the Saints. But I mean, at that point, the Bears had their targets for the draft. They knew that they were going to be, probably in on Anthony Miller. Or there was rumors out there that they're trying to trade up for Calvin Ridley at the end of the first round. So I don't think Ryan Pace he gave him the low tender to invite offers from other teams giving some gratitude to Cam for being not drafted late. He was a fucking tryout guy. And they brought him in here, and he exceeded all expectations, and he was well on his way to getting a big money deal in Chicago. And, Evan Silva is one of those guys that obviously has an axe to grind. I don't know whatever happened between him and Pace or him and the Bears, but he continues to harp on this when it's clear as day Ryan Pace did the right thing.
Who is Evan Silva?
Exactly.
He works in the media, correct? Some of these guys hold these grudges. They don't get a media interview and so forth.
Bill Barnwell.
Yeah, exactly.
A double A. Sorry.
A GM will walk right past them without saying hi, and all of a sudden, they get on their shit list. And so maybe that's what Evan's problem is.
Yeah, but he's another one that's blocked me from Twitter. Evan has. So to go on to number 3, Pro Football Focus sent out a tweet. It said Eddie Goldman was as strong as ever on the defensive interior for the Bears in 2018, and he graded out at 88.7. And then Steven Misajelovsky at Detroit Lions Guru, you can imagine where this is going, had a reply to that, and it said, well, A'Shawn Robinson's better than Eddie Goldman. With the Lions selecting a first-round defensive end this year, their defensive line is already better than Chicago's.
Oh, my God!
I don't know what happened along the way, but is there a bigger shit-talking group of people than Detroit Lions fans? And they're trashing on Mitch Trubisky. Mitch Trubisky's won a division. Matthew Stafford never has.
Never has. I think the issue with our friends up in Michigan is, that there's this contaminated water in Flint, Michigan. Clearly, that water has spread throughout Michigan, and all Detroit Lions fans have been drinking this brain corrosive water. So that's what's going on there. How can this guy predict that the Lions' defensive line is going to be better than the Bears when he doesn't even know? They're probably going to take another offensive lineman in the first round.
Exactly, or a tight end.
Yes.
Go ask Matt Patricia if he would trade A'Shawn Robinson. And I'm an A'Shawn Robinson fan. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, me too.
Go ask Matt Patricia if he would trade A'Shawn Robinson for Eddie Goldman straight up right now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Go ask him if you trade A'Shawn for that monster number 96, Akeem Hicks, right now.
Yep.
I wouldn't trade Roy Robertson-Harris for A'Shawn Robinson straight up, and I'm being completely honest. And I'm not saying that as a homer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just telling you. He's more disruptive overall, and he's got more upside. A'Shawn's a solid player, and that he's going to be a solid player in 5 years. Roy Robertson-Harris has the chance to blow up.
A'Shawn entered the league when he was, 19 or 20 years old?
Just to turn 20. He looked like he was 56, but yeah.
Exactly. So he strikes me as a player who needs 3 to 5 years to mature to become the player that he can be, the player that you and other scouts took a look at Alabama and said, this guy has a great future in the NFL. But it's just going to take time. It's going to take reps, and hopefully he'll stay healthy in order to accomplish and fulfill his potential. But, yeah, he's nowhere near the player Eddie Goldman is right now. Nowhere.
No, not even close. Not even close. So that's going to take us to the final shitty tweet of the week, or worst tweet of the week, whatever you have to say. And that actually came from the Chicago Bears, at Chicago Bears. They sent out a tweet on the 20th of March. It says, "We have signed Pat O'Donnell to a 2-year deal. Welcome back, POD."
He's not one of your favorites, is he?
No, he's, I'm not sure what O'Donnell's done. He's, I know there was the stuff out there with him holding, and then when kickers kick with him for the first year, their field goal percentage goes way down, and who knows if that's the hold or not. But it seems like when money time is here, when the pressure is on, what did Pat O'Donnell do in the Philadelphia game? Does anybody remember his last punt?
That was a 30-something yarder, right?
Yeah, he shanked it on Philadelphia's essentially game-winning drive. And not only did they bring him back, they gave him a raise.
Nice one, too.
Yeah, exactly. So, I understand they'll say Greg Gabriel sent out a tweet talking about the Soldier Field wins, stuff like that. The punter, I wouldn't have had a problem if they invested in a lower-end free agent and then brought in a couple UDFAs to battle it out and save the money there. Pat O'Donnell, I think, gets a lot of hype because he was a workout warrior, 4'6", 40 punter. Who gives a shit what your punter's running?
Exactly.
And he got the nickname Mega Punt because he put a couple balls off the ceiling in the Walter Payton Center. Well, they don't play there, Aldo.
No,
they don't play games there, so I don't care. Thanks, Pat. Doesn't matter. But I'm just not a fan of the signing. And like I said, little hidden yardage like that can cost you fucking ball games, folks. We've seen it. We've seen it before, and we're going to see it again. And hopefully it's not going to come down to a shanked punt. And maybe he'll take that next step. Maybe he will. He's got a little bit of security now. Maybe that was hanging over his head. But myself, I would have moved on. I would have moved on from O'Donnell last year. But that's just me. It doesn't mean that I'm always right either.
He's just fucking idiot.
Mom.
Me or Pat.
I think she's talking about Pat.
Oh, thank you.
Listen, I went back and listened or read the scouting report that the NFL.com's Nolan Araki issued on O'Donnell back at the time. And listen to his weaknesses, according to Naraki, and you will say, wow, this guy nailed it. Inconsistent hang time. Can improve placement and accuracy. Overly analytical and outthinks the game. Could stand to hone his mental toughness and learn to handle pressure. Holy shit, this guy is Nostradamus.
Yeah, what, is he 4 for 4, 5 for 5?
Yeah.
Does he say that he's got great hair in there too, by any chance?
No, I don't see that, but Pat does. And Pat is a great guy. He's done a lot for the community and so forth. I reached out to him to see if he wanted to come on. He probably heard about you and said, nah.
Yeah.
Grody told me to stay away.
Not coming out with you fuckers.
Oh, so that's it, right? Those are your tweets?
Yeah, and those are my dumbest tweets of the week, Aldo.
All right.
And finally, we have unequivocal evidence that good tweets exist as well. Drink up, Marflies. These are the best tweets of the week. Drink up. I hope your mugs are filled because Shayne's got some good tweets. Hopefully it's more than one because we need some good news here, man.
Yeah, we gotta get this show to 3 hours and 45 minutes like the old days, right, Aldo?
No.
Sorry, guys, that's not fucking happening.
No more.
But I'll kick it off here. This is very simple and to the point, and this is from a Chicago Bears player, and it's Quan at Roquan Smith 1. He's got a picture of himself standing in the middle of the Bears defense, staring at the quarterback, looking like Mike Singletary all locked in. And he said, I'm staring down the 2019 season, and I'm ready to go. And here we are in March, and that's exactly what I want from these guys. I know it's a very simple tweet, but that means a lot.
Yep.
He's still one of the youngest players on the team, and you know what? They're ready to go. And they're locked, they're loaded. They want to see what moves the Bears are making, and more importantly, that I hope that fucking Cody Parkey miss and them giving up the points on that last drive. These guys know it. They all feel it. We've heard Adrian Amos talk about it, Josh Woods talk about it. They're chomping at the bit to get back there, and you see, this is that '84 team, Aldo.
Yep.
This is the way that I look at it.
I totally agree with that. That '84 team, for you young bloods out there, this was prior to the Super Bowl Shuffle, Super Bowl team. They went out there and they won the first playoff game. Forgot who that was. Oh, it was against the Redskins being a Joe Theismann team. They played well, and then for the NFC Championship game, they lost against the San Francisco 49ers. Low-scoring game, but Bill Walsh kind of embarrassed the Bears a little bit. He put in this big 300-pound lineman to block on a running play, and Ditka remembered it, and that team remembered it. And they came back the following season, lost only one game, went all the way to the Super Bowl, and did it in style. And I got a feeling that we may be witnessing a repeat of that type of future, but we'll be seeing it in Matt Nagy style, not Mike Ditka style, which will be a nice contrast.
Oh, absolutely. And I just think that I don't think this is just a, like I said, Roquan is one of the youngest players, and that's who you want to hear it from. Akeem Hicks sent out the same type of tweet. Mm-hmm. Can't wait to get going again. Kyle Long, these guys are all ready to go. Yep. You see Mitch out there working with Turbo and Javon Wims and Allen Robinson. These guys are ready to go. And this is it. This isn't another yes, they're going to still be learning, but this is it here, guys. 2019. This is them coming in and kicking the fucking door down.
Right.
And they started to build the confidence last year. Now the fucking confidence is going to be overflowing. And you go out there, you don't just win games, you fucking dominate. Mm-hmm. And then you fucking step on them and you go right on to the fucking next one. And we're going to get it kicked off with Green Bay, and then we're going to go to week 2. And that's the way that they have to do it. They got to get that fucking edge that they lost in that Philly game. They didn't play with that edge all the time. Yep. They were the better fucking team, and they didn't play with that edge because the moment, I think, was a little bit too big for them, end of the day. When they needed to make those big plays, there's a lot of them out there that were inches away. And if you go back and look at that all-22, there was tons of them. When I say inches, I'm talking a quarter of an inch away from totally flipping that game to a blowout on Chicago's end. It just didn't happen. 2019 is going to be that year, and I feel 100% confident about that, injuries notwithstanding.
Michael Halatek from TixBlitz is in the chat room, and he says, I think what's great is hearing the new signees talking about the energy at the Bears digs in Lake Forest. So true. It is electric. All right, you got another tweet for us?
I do, and this is one that's very good, and this is our friend of the show, friend of the Barroom, Ryan Heckman at Ryan Heckman FS. This kind of alludes, Aldo, to everything that we've talked about and everything we want to do moving forward. And I know I went after Double A a little bit there tonight in the chat room, and I know he's probably pissed about that. Double A, I'll reach my hand out to you now. We'll let bygones be bygones after tonight, and I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to hold any grudge towards anybody except Jason Lockenfora and Evan Silva. And Ryan sent out a tweet, and I thought it was excellent. He said, I think it would serve Bears fans well for every Bears writer, podcaster to retweet and share as much of the other's content as possible. I'm going to try and do this whenever I can. We deserve different opinions, different analysis, etc., and it will make all of us better in the end. And it is. I've been just as guilty as this as anybody. I'll see other people doing stuff, and I'll be like, fuck do I want to retweet their stuff for when they're essentially doing what we're doing? And it's childish on my part. I can own up to it. I've been part of it. And I'm not going to be that way anymore with it. And I don't think Barroom should be. I don't think Bears Barroom fans should be. And like I said, end of the day, guys, we're all Chicago Bears fans. There's nobody that's better than anybody. Everybody can have their opinion. Doesn't mean they're right. Doesn't mean that I'm right. You should be able to debate is healthy, Mm-hmm. I debate with Ela all the time. I lose every fucking one. But you know what? I still stay here, Aldo. I'm not packed up and going anywhere. Mm-hmm. It is what it is. And I think it's not just the transformation that Barroom's going through. I think each individual Barroom fan, tweeter, everybody out there, it would make it a better place. Everybody's pissed at Mike Brez and all this stuff, Mike Brez and Bobby and I talked about this, had a good point. It's social media, end of the day. And social media is a killer in some situations. People have committed suicide over it. People have murdered people over social media. That's how divisive it can get. And it's ridiculous when you think about it. We're all here for the same reason. We're not all here because we're Bears Barroom fans. We're all here because we're Chicago Bears fans. And if we can't get along, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. We should all band together and cheer our fucking team from the rooftops and let every fucking fan base know it. Maybe that should be, 2 years ago was the year of the quarterback. Last year was the year of giving the quarterback his weapons. Let's make this the year the fucking fans took over and made their fucking voices as a unified voices. Maybe that's what this team is missing. We saw it. Greg Braggs started it. Did you hear the fucking boom on the kickoff? Those are the types of things that we can do, when we band together. And that's really what our focus should be. Fuck the Aaron Lemming hate, all of that shit. It doesn't matter. We're all Bears fans, and we want nothing but what's best for the Chicago Bears. Ryan Heckman, thank you for tweeting that out. It's the tweet of the year, the best tweet since I've been at Bears Barroom, so that's a credit to you. And I hope everybody takes that tweet and goes out and retweets it. And I think everybody, starting tonight, should try to be the same way. Don't think that if you go out and retweet Bears Brawl that anybody's going to get pissed off. Those days are over. Retweet them all. If you want to comment on it, comment on it. There's going to be zero animosity from my end. Let's all get along. Let's all move forward for the greater good of everybody, because none of the hate, none of the animosity is healthy. That's where I am. That's going to be my focus moving forward. And Aldo, you can pick it up from here.
Yeah, I applaud Ryan's tweet. I think that sentiment is fabulous. We're not going. Some of our followers are worried. You guys going to turn pussy on us? No, we're not going to turn pussy on you. We're still going to have fun. I think the poking fun at public figures in the national media is much more fun than poking guys in the local Bears Twitter community. I will say this though about Ryan's tweet. I am not going to retweet something just to extend an olive branch. I've seen some really poor writing on some of the other websites that I'm just not going to retweet because it would be a disservice to me and to the listener if they click on that article and they say, well, the very first fucking sentence is a typo in the grammar. Right. So if the writer is not going to take care and the editor of that site is not going to take care to put out something that's worthy of being reading, I'm not going to do it just to be a nice guy. I'm sorry, because that's going to hurt my reputation. I'm going to definitely retweet and resend stuff out that's worthy of everybody's time, because time is precious. And nobody knows that more than me, because I got like another couple of years to live.
Yeah, and I didn't do a good job of detailing that. I'm not saying just go out there to retweet anything. I think that there's a bunch of people out there, and I know that there's a bunch of people out there that could have a connection to Barroom that could see something from Bears Brawl or see something from Aaron Lemming or Orange Pants and say, I'm not going to retweet that because I don't want to, piss Shayne off or Aldo off. Mm-hmm. If you read it and you respect it and you believe in it, fucking retweet it. Right. Give them praise. Like I said, I'm not going to hold any ill will towards anybody for that whatsoever. So I totally agree. I'm not going to go out there just to retweet them all just to retweet, because there's a lot of them that I disagree with. Debate is still healthy, but if you believe in it, you enjoy it, retweet away.
My man Trey Busy wants to know if we should retweet guys who wear orange pants.
Hey, don't let Trey fool you. He's got orange pants. I've seen it.
And bell bottoms with elephant bell bottoms and platform shoes.
They say Ja Morant down the left leg.
All right, I wanted to talk a little football with you. The Bears' last free agent signing, I think, was the Clinton Dix signing, correct?
Yeah.
Are you all done with your tweets, by the way? You were done, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Ryan Heckman was my last one. Yeah,
great one. Excellent. I want to let's talk a little football, and then we'll end the show talking a little bit about the direction that we're taking with Barroom moving forward. Maybe not the best order of things, but that's how I run the show here, so I do it my way. All right, Clinton Dix is now a member of the Chicago Bears, and I, for one, am happy about that. I've got a little audio clip here of Ryan Pace. This was from the Combine, so this is 2 or 3 weeks old, but he talked about, he was asked a question about Eddie Jackson and finding a safety that would complement Eddie Jackson. And this is what he said. You've probably heard this before, but it's worth hearing again.
Just one of the hardest positions to find is that free safety with ball skills, a ball hawk free safety with range. And Eddie fits that to a T, But really our safeties in a lot of ways are interchangeable. Sometimes the days of just playing a deep free safety and then playing a box safety all the time, that's not always realistic. So you kind of got to have a balanced skill set for both players.
And that is what we got in Clinton Dix. You could say that he's a clone of Eddie Jackson. Am I far off there, Shayne?
No, you're not. I think he's I was a big fan of when he came out, and I don't know if a lot of people have looked into it too much. He came out the same draft as Khalil Mack, same draft as Kyle Fuller, Aaron Donald, that whole draft.
Great draft.
He was a guy that was, I think, that the Bears had talked about a little bit, and he's very, very rangy. And, you talk about Adrian Amos, and I know that was a bone of contention here at the Barroom. We all loved Adrian the person. Adrian the player was a very good player. I do think he was limited in some of the things that he could do, but he did progress every single year, and I know people were holding it against him because of the interceptions and whatnot, but it is what it is. He had a big play in that Philadelphia Eagles game on a 3rd down too, where if he would have went for the ball, maybe he could have got there, maybe he couldn't have, but he ended up leading with his head. Philadelphia got the 1st down out of it. But to get to the analyst part of it, Adrian's going to give you more in the running game. Everybody knows that. He's going to come up, he's going to blow guys up, he's going to fill his gaps, and he's going to ruin some running games. He's going to be a solid tackler. He's not going to miss very many tackles that way. Clinton Dix is not that. Clinton Dix is going to make up for all of his negatives on the back end. You're going to see a lot more flash plays. What's he got? He's got 14 career interceptions, I think. When the Packers traded him after 7 games, he had, I believe, 3 interceptions this past year already.
Right.
Clinton Dix came out in 2014 in the draft. Eddie Jackson came out in the draft in 2017. Clinton Dix is younger than Eddie Jackson by a couple of weeks. So it's just, it's funny to look at it that way. I think he fits this defense better because the Bears are going to be more aggressive up front and attacking. You're going to see the ball have to get out quicker. You're going to see bigger. You're also going to see bigger plays, I think, against the Bears because he's a guy that's going to take chances. He's going to be a guy that gambles. He's going to whiff on a few of them. He's not going to come up and run support and make every tackle like Adrian Amos did. That's not what his game is. Way more big play potential. And although on our last 100 proof, I brought up to you that I thought it made sense for them to do the 1-year deal with Clinton Dix because he knows what type of defense this is. He knows who Chuck Pagano is. He knows who Khalil Mack and Leonard Floyd and Eddie Goldman and Roquan Smith and Danny Trevathan are. He's got all those guys ahead of him. He's going to make plays. Those plays that you see downfield that Adrian just, didn't get to or anything like that, now you have, like you said, you essentially have 2. I don't think he's as good in coverage as Eddie Jackson. I think Eddie Jackson's more explosive than is. But the Bears are a lot more solid deep than they were with Adrian Amos. You're going to lose some up front, but you're going to gain some up front with Buster Screen because Buster Screen can make those plays too, and he's a guy that's gonna stay healthy. He's gonna be a guy that's gonna get up there and fill some gaps, and he's gonna make those plays like Bryce Callahan did. But then he wasn't there because he was always injured. So I do for 3.5 or 3.2 million, what he signed for. Anybody that doesn't like that, I don't think that they're looking at it with a clear head. This isn't Adrian Amos is a good guy thing. He is. He's a great guy. And I know that was a big campaign out there. If you wish him well, you're a piece of shit. Well, whatever. That doesn't matter. You're just pissed off because you didn't have him on your show.
Right.
Let's be honest. That's what that comes down to. So it just, good luck to Adrian. I think overall we got the player that's a better fit for our defense.
Now, I think HaHa is a 1-year rental.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. The reason is pretty obvious. Eddie Jackson's going to get a new contract next year. And if Eddie Jackson plays as we are projecting him to play, right?
Hello, Landon Collins deal.
Exactly. So what? We're talking $16 million a year? What? Something like that is what I think Collins got off the top of my head.
$6 and $84. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what he signed for?
Right. So it's going to take money to retain Eddie Jackson, who by the end of this upcoming season could unequivocally be the best free safety or safety period in the NFL.
Absolutely, and he's a better safety than Landon Collins.
Yes.
Unfortunately, Landon Collins went to the land that overpays for everything in Washington. That's just what they do. But Eddie's going to get paid. That's going to be their focus, and I do look at HaHa as a 1-year rental, but that's what good teams do.
Absolutely.
Aldo. That's what you see New England do. You saw what they did with their offensive tackle, Trent Brown, that went to Oakland. They're going to go, and that you're going to see the Bears transition into this team that does start to get compensatory picks, because you can't go out and make these big splash signings when you're a good team every year and you got young players that you got to pay. So, if HaHa comes out here and gets 5-6 interceptions, he's going to earn that long-term deal as a 27-year-old unrestricted free agent. Somebody's going to pay him. There's going to be tons of teams out there. The cap is going up again. But the way that you got to look at it is just the way that the Bears looked at it. Yep. They would have signed Adrian Amos to a 1-year deal like they did with HaHa, and he would have been here. They wouldn't have brought Clinton Dix in. But they were never gonna. They were gonna sign Amos on their terms, not on his, because their focus is gonna be Eddie Jackson.
Right.
And that was one of the things with Phil and as a coach, and that's the way that they should look at it, and they do. Fuck it, pay him. Phil wanted to tag him.
Right.
No, that wasn't the right play.
Can't do it.
To tag him, you can't. This is a poker game. Ryan Pace is figuring that out. He's figuring out how to play that, and he's doing it the right way.
Right. And Trey Busy says the Packers GM has to be smoking crack. He may be, but I think what's going on with Green Bay is that they're seeing the Aaron Rodgers window closing so fucking fast that they desperately want to ensure a great run for a championship with Aaron still. In that, clearly he's still in his prime, but he's in that second part of the prime. And with the hits that he's been taking, this guy's career could all of a sudden just jump off the cliff. So they're spending money, some would say recklessly, to try to get that one last championship before Aaron Rodgers is mothballed.
And you know what they needed, Aldo? They needed consistency in their secondary. They didn't need the gambler back there. Right. They didn't need the guy that was going to give you a big play and then blow 2 plays. Adrian Amos gives them that consistent. If they give him an assignment, he's going to go do it. He's not a gambler. The Packers needed that in their secondary. The Bears have the benefit to have fucking home wreckers in front of Eddie Jackson and Clinton Dix. That play against Tampa when Jameis Winston came in and he got, I don't know if it was Bilal Nichols or somebody hit him and that ball went straight up in the air and you saw Danny Trevathan pick it off, you're going to see a whole bunch more of that. You're going to see a whole bunch more of that this year because The Bears didn't need to get better in free agency, guys. They needed to get better with the current players that they have, taking that year 1 to year 2 to year 3 step.
Right.
That's where their improvement's coming from.
Exactly. And there was a lot of talk on social media about the Bears clearing out all that space, and everybody was in anticipation that Justin Houston was going to be signed and this player and that player. And I just never bought into that because I just feel like this team knows that they've got the roster now to compete for a Super Bowl. They have players who are ready to take the next step, and they want to be competitive for years on out. And so they have to be careful and have enough money to sign Eddie Jackson, to sign Leonard Floyd, to sign Tariq Cohen, and on and on. There's so many players who are, Ryan Pace at the Combine said, we're very lucky. We got a lot of young players, and that means that their salaries are low. That's fabulous, but that ends in a year or two.
That's why people will say, take a pass on this year's draft. We don't have a 1 or a 2. No, you got to go out and hit. Mm-hmm. It's imperative that you hit.
Yep.
You got to get, who knows? They could go out and obviously they don't think Deion Bush is the guy.
Right.
It's pretty obvious, or they wouldn't even, he would have been the guy that they just anointed.
Exactly.
So they could very well look at a guy in the draft, maybe drops to round 4, round 5. We love all the tools. This guy needs a year of seasoning. You just talked about being one and done. And then you have the net. That's how you do it.
Right.
You can't pay everybody. It's just you're gonna lose players along the way that you're gonna be like, why'd they let him go? It's because they're good at what they're doing. They're drafting good players. You can't keep them all. Especially when you have a guy like Mac that's got that, he's worth every fucking penny. Ryan Pace is doing exactly what he needs to be doing, and he's going to hit this guy this year. He's this 3rd and 4th, 5th and 2/7 that he's got. This is right in his wheelhouse. Right. They're going to be very calculated, and they're going to go get the guys that they want. I'm totally confident in that.
I am with you on that, and I think that, when you look at, I think it was Ben in the chat room mentioned about Danny Trevathan. Danny Trevathan is going to be playing his last year with the Chicago Bears in 2019.
Agreed.
You can go to Vegas and bet on that. If you can find a prop bet, put a couple $100 on
Look at the roster. Look at the roster.
Exactly.
You saw these middle linebackers get look what the kid from Baltimore got paid. What, he $84 million? C.J. Mosley.
Yes.
Be proud of Ryan Pace for that.
Yep.
He's looking forward and seeing all this. Where did they go heavy on the defense? They have middle linebackers everywhere. He went out and got Roquan. He went out and got Iggy. He's got Nick Kwiatkowski. Josh Woods, I'm telling you, don't sleep on this dude. Don't sleep on him. He doesn't have to go out there and make an impact in the starting defense. He's not going to this year. But he's going to blow motherfuckers up on special teams.
Right.
He's going to be that next-gen guy there that – Bellamy's gone. Sherrick's another year older. Mm-hmm. He's gonna make his hay there, and those are guys that can step in.
And moving on with this salary cap situation, first of all, one of the things that I'm really worried about is the potential work stoppage after the 2020 season, because we can speculate all we want about salary caps and building a team for the future, but all signs are pointing towards there being something dramatic happening with the labor situation in the NFL that could result in a work stoppage. It could result in games being lost, perhaps the entire season and so forth. But the one clear thing is that the NFL and the Players Association, they've got to get back to a level where they trust one another and that the players are being fairly compensated for putting their lives on the line, which I don't think they are in most cases. Yes, there are some really fabulous salaries happening for some players, but you look at those lower tier players, they're out there playing just as hard. They're out there putting their lives just as much risk, and they're fucking making peanuts.
It's It's like the real world, Aldo. The upper class and the middle class,
Yeah.
and then the lower class. Well, the whole fabric, of the country and of the NFL is the middle class, the middle to lower class. They're the ones doing all the grunt work. They're a lot of the ones that are making everything go.
Yep.
And they're getting the shit kicked out of them. They're not being compensated like the upper end guys.
They really
but
are.
Unfortunately, Aldo, and you've been in the business world a lot longer than I have. In negotiations, who ends up winning? The person with the deeper pockets.
Yep.
Ain't nobody that's got deeper pockets than the NFL owners.
That's right.
When those checks stop coming, you tend to overlook and be like, you know what? Fuck it. We'll forget about A, B, C, and D. You give us F, we'll be back. We want those checks rolling back in.
Yep.
I really think it's going to be much of the same. I think it's going to be very contentious, but when I think, nothing that ever needs to be done until go time.
Right.
And I think it'll be a whole bunch of the same with that. It'll drag out. It'll be very contentious. You'll hear, we're not going to play at all. You start missing those checks, you hear that knock at the door. We're ready to negotiate.
Yep. And then there's the other added thing about the XFL. Is that going to be a bargaining chip for NFL players who will say, all right, you're going to shut us down. I'm going to go play at the XFL. I'll take 50%. I'll take, half the contract that they're offering while you guys get your shit together. And so, who knows? But what's important for us as Bears fans to realize is that we've got a short window to win this Super Bowl before we lose guys who are going to demand big bucks. This is Danny Trevathan's last year. There could be some other guys on the roster who like Ha Clinton Dix, who are just going to play 1 year for the Bears. This has got to be the year. And I think that Ryan Pace's biggest responsibility is weighing that, winning this year, but also not destroying the cap situation so that we're faced with horrible cap decisions in years to come where all we have is just a couple good players and not a good team. They've got to continue to draft well, especially hitting those late round draft picks, players who can contribute right away, or developmental players who are a year, 2, 3 years away from contributing. It's what he's done well so far, and he's got to continue to do that. I'm almost like glad he doesn't have a first round pick, aside from Roquan Smith, who really has he hit on? Well, Trubisky, of course, but we're still waiting for that to fully pay in. But I'm excited about this team. But I think that there's a lot of interesting things that we as fans don't always pay attention to that we here at the Barroom are going to point out, and we'll mull over together. We'll share thoughts and figure out what's happening with this team. All right, this running back situation. What are the chances, Mr. Shane Marsaw, that this team is going to draft a running back and then work out a draft day deal for Jordan Howard so that this team goes into the season with Davis, Cohen, and their new draft pick?
I think it's likely that that's what's going to happen. Had a little conversation with Bobby. I forget exactly when it was, but he mentioned the draft day trade of Jordan Howard and going that route. And, he's your, I don't want to call him your wild card, but he is your ace up your sleeve in case the draft doesn't fall your way. You can have your list of 3 running backs that you're targeting at 87, or hopefully that will fall to you. And the draft gets crazy sometimes. Who knows? We know the Bears want and need a running back. So does the other 31 teams. Crazy shit happens, and that's why I think probably the smart play is what Bobby said. See how it goes. Listen, you're never going to get a second rounder or anything. Get that out of your head for Jordan Howard. Jordan Howard is worth more to the Bears than he is to any other team. I think that's just the honest truth, and that's not me picking on Jordan Howard. I love Jordan Howard, the player. I just don't think he's the guy that Matt Nagy wants in his offense. I think it's pretty fucking obvious at this point.
Yep.
And I don't think that there's anybody here that's going to be surprised if one of the running backs that they want, and that's the Bears, go running back at 87. Could I see him waiting till the 4th round? Sure. You never know, but I don't think anybody's going to be surprised if that's the pick at 87. And you saw them go out and get Mike Davis, and he's not a guy. He's not a game breaker. He's just going to bust through and run away from people. That's not who he is. He's got good feet, and I know there's people out there that don't like Devin Singletary because of his 40 time and stuff like that. But watch game tape. Matt Nagy wants guys that have good feet. You see how important it is in that Philly game. Watch Jordan Howard on that fucking 3rd and 1/4 of an inch play. He fucking lost his feet, or he would have fucking housed it.
Yep.
The game would have been over. The Bears would have been up, 2 scores at that point?
Yep.
And that's, like I said earlier, it wasn't even a game of inches. It was a game of a 1/4 inch here and there. And it's just, it's not all about blinding speed with Matt Nagy. Go look at the profile of Kareem Hunt. Not off the field, on the field. He was a 4.55, 4.6 back. Didn't have the blinding speed, but he had another gear, and he was faster on the field than he was getting timed in the 40. And this draft is littered with guys like that.
Yep.
And I'll be honest, and I know people like to hear me call my shots. I think he's going to end up in Philly when all is said and done. Jordan Howard. I really do. They have that track record there. Supposedly they offered Ryan Pace a 3rd rounder at the trade deadline, and he shot it down, and he should have.
Right.
If you're making a run, why are you taking bullets off the table? And you needed him there.
Yep.
For the run. But I think you saw them trade for Jay Ajayi. You saw them trade for or go out and sign Blunt. That's what they want in their offense as a complement to who? Darren Sproles. Do we have anybody like that on our team? Oh, wait, yeah, we do. Tariq Cohen. But it's just, I think you're going to see a 3-headed running back in Chicago. I think Mike Davis is going to play. Tariq Cohen is going to play.
Yep.
The draft pick, they're going to play.
Yep.
Taquan Mizell played in the fucking playoffs.
Big downs.
On 2nd down, yeah. Think about it. You don't think that they're going to play these other guys?
Oh, yeah.
They just gave Mike Davis $3 million. He's going to fucking play.
Sorry for interrupting. Frankie's got a good question here. Do you think that Pace could be conserving cash for late in the summer when teams who are tight on the cap have to cut some good players, like when the Packers release Josh Sitton?
Oh, like when I thought he was, like when they did release Josh. Absolutely. Yeah, that's going to happen. That's what good teams do.
Yep.
And guys, free agency's not over right now. There's still a lot of good players out there. They're not big name players. There's guys out there. There's going to be guys out there just because you're the Chicago Bears on defense. Oh, I get to go to a big market. Oh, Khalil Mack, Akeem Hicks. Oh, hell yeah, I want to go there. There's going to be more signings. What do the Bears have? 63 players or 64 players?
64, I think it is, yeah.
Under contract,
right.
And you carry 90 in the offseason.
Right.
And we don't have any draft picks. So what does that tell you? There's going to be lots of players coming in.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully 10 more kickers.
Okay, let's see. Somebody else had a really good question here. I think it was Chachi again. Shayne, do you think where is it? Shayne, come back. Could Mike Davis and Ryan Nall be competing for the power back role that Howard is currently in?
I don't think Mike Davis is going to compete with anybody. He's there.
Yeah, I agree.
It's his. You're not giving a guy $3 million to earn a roster spot. I think Ryan Nall, maybe it was Chachi that brought it up earlier or when we were talking on Twitter, that I think Ryan Nall could have did exactly what Mike Burton did last year, and he's not a fullback.
Right.
Plus, he gives you the added dimension of, being able to, pass him the football and give you the running option as a fullback. But it's, they haven't brought back Mike Burton yet. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go. Another guy that's out there, I think Diddy at one point brought it up, is Anthony Sherman, the fullback from Kansas City. I mean, you watch their games, they're hitting this dude on 43-yard wheel routes, and he's a fucking fullback. Imagine Mike Burton doing that? Jesus Christ, But, no, I think Mike Davis's spot on this roster is solidified. I don't think he's going anywhere. He was the first guy they signed. It was very calculated for a reason. They want him.
I could see Jordan Howard being packaged, with one of the Bears' 7th round picks. Jordan Howard to the Oakland Raiders for their 4th round pick. That's what I'm kind of anticipating is going to happen on draft day. The Raiders would be a really good situation for Jordan Howard. I think it's Tom Cable that is the offensive line coach over there, and he's had a lot of success in the past with power running backs, and he has kind of that hybrid zone man blocking scheme and can easily, set up a blocking scheme that's going to get Jordan Howard back to the type of results that he had in his first 2 seasons with the Bears. I thought, until Le'Veon Bell went to the Jets, I thought that Howard was a possibility to go there with Dowell Loggins, the offensive coordinator there, and clearly having good results getting Howard to, although it took him a while to recognize that he had Howard on the roster. Hey, who's this guy? But I don't know. There's a lot of speculation on Howard's future with the team. I do think that he's gone, and that the Bears are going to add a running back who is more of a weapon out of the backfield, catching the ball, somebody who can run routes and catch the ball consistently. And I think you're right about footwork. But I also think that Ryan Nall might see some action this season in the regular season. We're going to see.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And I think one other option that we haven't talked about yet with the running game is, in terms of Jordan Howard, is maybe they keep him on the roster and hold him through the fucking preseason. And who knows? A team starting running back goes down in the second preseason game. Well, then you have a little bit of bargaining power. Maybe you can turn that, 5th rounder into a 4th rounder. Who knows? That's another option. I got to give Jordan Howard a lot of credit. He was on Earl Bennett's podcast, and Earl Bennett asked him flat out, hey, if this was before free agency had opened, he goes, hey, if the Bears went out and got Le'Veon Bell, or if the Bears go out and draft a running back, and you're demoted, how are you going to handle that? What are you going to do? And you want to know what he said?
No. What?
He goes, I'm going to be the best 3rd-string running back that there is in the league.
Nice.
I'm going to be the best short yardage back that there is in the league. And that's what a 5th-round guy says.
Right.
Because he hasn't made that money, and he's not going to lose focus over just a bad attitude. And, that's who Jordan Howard is, and that's a testament to him as a man. And who knows? Stranger things have happened. If the draft doesn't fall their way, why would you get rid of him?
Right. I agree. Yeah, you know what? The one thing that I love so much about Jordan Howard is that this guy is a team player, and the character overall on this Chicago Bears team is fabulous. And I truly was a little bit worried about Cordero Patterson joining the Bears, because when he played his first couple of seasons with the Vikings, the guy made terrible decisions. It sounded like he was, doing his own thing and so forth. But it's clear from what I've seen and read and heard that this guy is now changed his ways.
Sure.
He is a team player. He comes in here, wants to talk to Devin Hester about, how to make even more explosive.
You hear that, Cody Parkey? You fuck. That's how you do it.
Exactly. So I'm thrilled about just the overall character of the team. And then guys who come here with borderline characters, all they have to do is be exposed to this locker room for a while, and they will get their shit together. That is clear, and that makes me really, really happy as a Chicago Bears fan.
Me too. Yeah, absolutely. And then you talk about Cordero Patterson, Aldo. Minnesota traded up for him at the end of the first round.
Right.
So he was doing things that he was never good at. They were force feeding him because he was a first rounder. Now he knows his role.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're going to give him a couple of touches in the backfield just to change things up. Maybe run a jet sweep with him. Who knows? But it's coming back. We got an all-pro punt returner. Now we have an all-pro kick returner. So, like I said, that's you have to look at it that way.
Yep.
He's brought here to boost it. We don't have to see Benny Cunningham returning kicks anymore. Think about that. You just went from Benny Cunningham to Cordero Patterson. So it's crazy, and it's a total upgrade. And he knows his role now. That's why he's calmer. That's why he's accepting of it. He knows what he's good at, and that's what he's going to do.
Yep. What do you think about the Ted Larson signing?
I like the depth. He's there. He knows the guys. I think he probably wanted to get around Harry Heastand. Have you heard anything negative about Harry from a football guy ever?
Never.
Every one of them is putting him on the Mount Rushmore of offensive line coaches. He's a guy that's going to come in here and he's going to provide you solid depth. And Bradley Soul, you saw the way that they incorporated him. This doesn't fall short on these guys. Ted Larson sees that. He's like, I want to catch a fucking touchdown pass. The big uglies love that shit. He knows that he's coming to a winning program. They want to see it. Like you said, Cordero Patterson, I want to be part of that culture. And Ted Larson, he's not a guy. Just think about where we've come from. Ted Larson was a main part of our offensive line a couple years ago. That's how far we've come. He played legit minutes. Legit snaps. So quality depth on the offensive line, I'm never going to complain about, ever.
Yeah, it is great. All right, I want to close the show. We got 15 minutes left. I want to close the show with talking a little bit about this particular show moving forward and and what we have planned here at Bears Barroom. This show, 100 Proof, has been the signature show of Bears Barroom Radio Network, and we are going to continue to work towards having that show be the signature show. It's got some edge, it's got some comedy, it's got a lot of production value. One of the reasons we don't go live is because I spend a good portion of the night after we record, putting in sound effects and putting in some fun stuff in there. We're going to go back to that format unless
just be a bunch of punch noises this time.
That's right. We are talking to some people about potentially taking the place of Phil here. And these are people that have us very, very excited. Shayne and I have talked, and we're like, wow, that would be pretty outstanding. That's all we're going to say on that matter. But, we're treating, Shayne and I are treating this show with very special care because we love what Phil, Shayne, and I built here. Now that Phil is gone, we want to transition that show to a slightly different, obviously, because you can have a new personality. We're going to tell that person to behave like Phil. Not that we would want that person to behave like Phil. But that person's going to bring their own style and humor and knowledge and insight into the show. And that has us very, very excited about where this show is headed. So to do that, this show is going on hiatus for about 5 to 6 weeks. But don't you worry. The star of this show, Shayne Marsaw, will be with you weekly, along with myself and Danny Shimon, on a series of shows that we're calling Draft on Tap, presented by 100 Proof. It'll have some kind of 100 Proof identification just to let everybody know that we're still around. And the focus of those shows, Draft on Tap, is obvious. We're going to talk hardcore football prospects. We're going to get scouting reports. Danny and Shayne are looking at tape, and they're going to share their knowledge of what they've seen on tape. In addition to that, we've got a lineup of guests for these shows that's just going to blow your socks off. I'll give you a couple names since you're asking.
Donald Trump.
The President of the United States will be joining us. Can't believe much of what he says. No, I'm just kidding. Greg Gabriel is one name that has agreed to come on. Of course, Emery Hunt. I can go on. I can give you a bunch of names, but let me tell you that every show is going to be worth your time. These are going to be 2-hour shows. We're going to talk hardcore draft, and then the week of the draft, we're going to have a series of draft on tap shows. We're going to have mock drafts. We're going to have some fun. We're going to have some laughs, and so all that is going to continue. And then the first week in May, the new and improved, the new 100 Proof will be on your podcast stream. Maybe we'll do that one live. We'll see. And we'll unveil who the new co-host of the show is going to be. Is that did I cover that well, Shayne?
I've heard better, but we'll go with it.
Yeah,
we can edit it out.
my tequila started to kick in here. We need to wrap things up here. All right. In addition to that, Bears Barroom, the network, we're going to go through a name change. And I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, yeah, the Bears Barroom image is tarnished and so forth. No, it's not. Yeah, maybe it is. But we've actually, somebody told me that we've gained more followers since the Phil thing because he had so many haters that they're not following.
It's true.
More people are following us on Twitter.
My followers went up.
Yeah, did they?
True story. I'm not going to lie about it.
That's awesome. We're going to go through a name change because the NFL has been honest about the use of the name Bears on our Bears Barroom Radio Network. So I'm not going to announce the name now because Shayne and I are still kicking around a couple ideas, but we've kind of settled on one thing. But just to let you know, our goal, our focus is that by the time the season rolls around, we're going to have a full-blown radio network here that's going to have daily and nightly shows here on Mixlr.com. That's right. Daily and nightly show on Mixlr.com. So if you want the special kind of programming that we can deliver, all you need to do is download the app, turn it on from 9 to 5, from 9 to 10 p.m., whatever times we settle on. And there's going to be original programming here talking about sports with most of it dedicated to the Chicago Bears. There will be some entertainment shows. We're going to talk movies. We're going to talk TV and some other things. But we are working on providing you with a full network of programming that will be unlike anything offered anywhere else. And so we hope that you will give it a taste once it's gone full blown. And if you like it, share it with others. And if you don't like it, keep your mouth shut. Don't say a word to anybody. So those are the plans for Bears Barroom. And in terms also, like Shayne said, our character is going to change a little bit. We're still going to be some mean, angry fucks at times. I just can't help myself. I'm just incorrigible. And
you heard me tonight, right?
Exactly.
Don't say anything stupid, Shayne. Would it take me 3 minutes?
We're still going to rub some people the wrong way, but we're going to do it in a manner that is going to be different than has been done before. We have perhaps justifiably gotten some bad remarks, criticism from some of the people who have stopped by, and so we're going to be a little bit more cognizant of that and try to behave ourselves a little bit more. Is that fair, Shayne?
Absolutely. No, I totally agree. Like I said, Twitter is a very, very small place when you think about it. I mean, it gets even smaller when you're talking about Chicago Bears fans. Mm-hmm. And, we need more positive Bears fans. It doesn't mean that you got to get along with everybody. You can still debate and do all that, but it's just after a while, the attacks on the same people have been going on for 4 years, and what the fuck has it proved? Nothing.
That's right.
You're in a fucking prize fight, and you're just getting punched in the face, and there's no bell. It's just going to keep on going on and on and on. So let's do something productive. Like I said, you don't have to go out and retweet everything, but if you see something by somebody else and you enjoy it, fucking retweet it. You shouldn't be criticized or ostracized for that at all. Something you like, retweet away. Fuck, we may have Aaron Lemming on the show, Aldo.
I would love to have Aaron Lemming on the show. I think it would be good for him. I think it would be good for us. So, Aaron, if you're listening, we have an open invitation. I'll drop you a note on your DM. And we can have you on sometime in May or June. We'll have a good talk. And we'll lay it all out on the line. Tell us,
of 2024.
We'll lay it all on the line. You tell us why you're unhappy with us. We'll tell you, whatever we think about you, and we'll keep it honest. And I'm sure that, my Bears Barroom account doesn't follow Aaron because he blocked us.
I was like one of his first blocks.
Really?
Started way back when like Phil and Lauren and John Wood did Bears Draft on Tap. I just went on Twitter one night and I said, everybody should know Aaron Lemming's a fraud.
Oh, no.
And John Wood came after me and Aaron Lemming blocked me. So that was fucking years ago. So I think maybe I popped his cherry when it comes to blocking people on Twitter.
I think you've popped a lot of cherries, dude.
Everybody hates me.
But I will reach out to Aaron on my personal account. We still follow each other and have very cordial conversations there. So I'll reach out to him if our barflies are interested in having Aaron on. Let us know. I think that's it, Mr. Shayne. Let's do
shout outs, Aldo.
I guess we have to, right? Can we do this for the last time? Last time ever, shout outs.
Say goodnight, Aldo.
Do you have any shout outs you want to do?
Yeah. I'm going to shout out every Chicago Bears fan on Twitter.
There you go.
Everybody. Like I said, hey, it just takes a small group of people to make a big difference. And who knows? We get some positivity out there. It might start snowballing, and it might snowball all the way to fucking Miami when we're hoisting that Lombardi trophy.
There you go. I love that. Yeah, you know what? I could do a 2-hour shout out. There were just a lot of people who reached out to me last week when we were going through this Phil thing, and people who were very, very supportive and lent some really good advice about how to handle things. And I appreciate every single one of those people. I'm not going to do the whole name thing. I apologize if you feel slighted that I'm not. But I showed you my appreciation privately, and I just want to collectively say thank you very much for reaching out. That was a very tough moment because of my friendship with Phil and seeing him humiliated that way. But you just, can't deny that, he dug that grave for himself. And so my focus now with Phil is to help him in any way he needs to get back on his feet in a spiritual way, so that he feels good about himself and can focus on what he brings to the table as an analyst and as a performer, because he's got a lot to offer. So if I'm going to give a shout out to anybody, I'm going to give it out to my man Phil Atoshin, who really, despite all his flaws, is a good soul.
Absolutely, and I'll double down on that. Like I said, and if there's anybody out there that thinks that this is the end for Phil and I as friends, not work associates, it's not. I've talked to Phil every single day. He's been a little bit under the weather, like literally sick yesterday and today, but we still talk every day. And I'll end my night tonight telling you guys what I told him. I don't give a fuck about Draft Dr. Phil. I don't. My boy's Phil Atoshin, and I want Phil to work on Phil, and I want Phil to get shit right. I want him to get stuff right for him, his family, for his life in general. That's what it's all about. When I said Twitter doesn't matter, that's what I'm talking about. When I said Bears Barroom doesn't matter, that's what I'm talking about. Draft Dr. Phil isn't a blip on my radar. This is about Phil Atoshin and whoever just called Aldo right there on the phone.
It's my mom again.
Oh, Jesus. Tell her to leave me alone.
He's a medium.
Mom.
Hey, baby.
I'm sorry, Phil. What? I've called you Phil 3 times today.
2 times, I know.
2 or 3
I'm
times.
6'3", he's 5'7",
I've got Phil on the brain is what it is. We called this show Unplugged. It should have been like the Phil show or something. All right. Are you all done with your soap opera? It's not soap opera, but your lovey-dovey. We all love Phil. Good. I'm looking in the chat room just to see. Michael over at TickSplit says, remember to always retweet those posts from TickSplits.com.
Absolutely.
Way to go, Michael Halatek. Thank you to all of our sponsors from 2018. We'll be talking to new sponsors and seeing if we can lengthen our deals with the old sponsors. So that's part of our plans for 2019 and beyond. I want to thank everybody who stopped by. And remember, if you drink, please do not drive, and always bear down!
Bear down.